Hi, I'm Jade. I'm the owner of Whips and Wishes, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about how I find markets, how I'm able to apply for them, and what forms of transactions I do, mostly for my markets, and sending off the money for the application, and how, in my experience, markets and craft fairs run in Vermont. First off, I have only been at my business for a year. As a registered business, I've only been here, doing all of this since February, so I don't really have a lot under my belt. I can't tell you from years and years of experience. Trust me, I am really small. Almost no one knows I have a business. I'm not well known in the area. I am lucky if I get a returning customer, but all that being said, I love what I do. I'm gonna continue to do it, even if no one shows up. I love going to markets, and the way I really started was I knew of one market that always happened. It's an annual market. It's at my old middle school, so every year they support the 8th grade, and when I was in 8th grade, I worked at that market. So I would help out, I would run the concessions, and that's how I knew that that market or craft fair went on every year. And so what I did was I hopped on to Facebook and I looked at the school's Facebook page and I started following them, and I saw that they had released the applications and the contact info for that particular market. So last year in November, I emailed and I filled out the application. I sent my money via check. So I always send check. I don't do Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, PayPal. Personally, I don't like them, and that's just a me thing. I find it very hard to trust some technology. Little background about me, I was not raised around technology. We were not allowed phones until we got to be 18. I wasn't allowed social media until 13 to 16, and even then it was no. Minimal TV. We were outside doing farm work. We didn't have a lot of technology in our house that was accessible to the children. Back to my point though, I sent off the check and he was able to email me, so they communicate via email, and that was my dipping my toes into water. And from there I really enjoyed it, and so I looked for Facebook groups to prevent me from having to search out every school individually. I joined 2 Facebook groups. So I joined one private and one public. When joining Facebook groups, I would suggest trying to find more private ones, because when you join a public one, you risk the abundance of scams coming up on your page. They will have a town maybe you're not familiar with. They will have already made their whole thing in Canva, because that's a common thing to do. And it's just basic, and they'll give you the information. And if you don't check correctly, if you don't look at it clearly and you just glance it, you could get caught in the scam. So that's also another reason why I don't ever do anything via PayPal. I've discovered that a lot of scam are around PayPal. They'll ask you for your PayPal information, or ask you to pay via PayPal. So that's another reason why I really enjoy just doing checks. With the private one though, there's more rules, there's more regulation, and you'll get a lot more, in my experience, a lot more, actual businesses and actual coordinators. You'll get a lot of the annual events that are popping up, and not just first time. Great example in this particular Facebook group, I found the Danville Fair. Now, when I was reading it, I thought it was actually, Danville Autumn on the Green initially, but it's not. It's the Danville Fair, which is a one-day event, and this year was the first year that they actually introduced vendors. I didn't know that until after I signed up, but because it was the, I think, 94th year of them running this fair, it was already an established event, and it didn't make me feel as though I had to go travel that distance to experience how the traffic and what the vibes were. So I was able to just go, yeah, it's worth the risk, I'll sign up and get a booth. And it ended up being one of my most productive booths or profitable events because I made $400. That's crazy. My average amount that I make is like 200, if not 175. But I would have never known about it unless I was in this Facebook group. And it's not enough just to be in the group and wait for it to pop up in your newsfeed. It is when I'm looking for markets or when I'm feeling as though signing up for markets, I check that group almost every day because there's some posts that like 5 hours ago it was posted, you try to contact them, the thing's full. So spots fill up really, really fast because we are a small area and people know where the good events are. It's usually the lesser known, maybe not well publicized events that are going, hey, we still need like 5 other vendors for this event. It's pretty empty and it's next weekend. If you have any availability, let me know. Facebook groups are like the spot to go, in my experience. I haven't been able to find any other like concrete way of finding markets and applying to them. There's a lot of markets that once you have been a vendor, they'll contact you again. They'll find you, and if they liked your stuff, they'll invite you back. So I've had that happen with, I think, three markets so far. To put this in perspective, I think I've only done 7 markets. In my whole time as, when I was dipping my toes in and now being an actual licensed business, I've only done 7 different markets. So understand that's where I'm coming from. I don't actually have the experience of most of the content creators or these individuals online. I have very, very little experience compared to others. This isn't meant to be like, oh, I'm super successful, listen to these tips and tricks. This is just my experience that I'm sharing with you. So after Facebook, a great way to communicate with the event coordinators and stuff, I prefer email. I think email is the most professional way to go about things. I highly dislike going on Messenger and using Facebook Messenger. To me, it doesn't feel professional, especially since I use my personal Facebook to find all of these events, but then I use my business email, so it gets a little wonky. So I try to keep my personal stuff and my business stuff completely separate. For the most part, I'm able to do that. Sometimes it's a little iffy. Oh, what I said about not finding another concrete way to find markets, I just remembered there is one, but you're gonna be social. You're gonna have to be social. And I know this is very hard for some people. Hell, it's hard for me. But when you're at markets, go up to other vendors, talk to them, see how it's going. When you go to a market to vet, talk to people who have similar booths to you. Like, sometimes people will be super, super kind and answer all of your questions. I went to an event, Harvest Moon Festival down in Windsor. I saw a crochet vendor there, and I had always been toying with the idea of maybe that's the one I want to go to. I had gotten an application. So I found out it was $50 for the booth because I reached out to the town's people of Windsor that run it, and I did get an application, but because it's from 5 to 9, it's a night market, so I would have to invest in lights and everything for people to even see my product, and I knew I didn't have enough product for the amount of traffic that goes, so I didn't go as a vendor. I went as, a customer. And I saw this crochet artist, and I asked her how it usually goes for her, if it's profitable, if you think like it's worth going. And she told me that, yeah, absolutely, sign up for next year. And so I might do that. But yeah, talk to other vendors. I have an acquaintance from, another one of my hobbies or, communities that I'm part of, and she goes around and she sells her soaps and farm products. So I was like, hey, my middle school does this one, it's pretty decent. I do feel bad because this year's was pretty slow, so neither of us made the amount of money that we thought we were going to, and that I felt bad about that because I convinced her to sign up. But it was only a $20 booth fee, so it's not that much of a loss. However, she was doing a very big market, and I get goat's milk from her. I knew that she was going to be at this event, so I was like, hey, bring goat's milk. I'll trade jars, but that's the only reason I'm going to this event. And I thought it was going to be a flop because it's at my hometown, and my hometown, when I was living there, was notorious for like not having things going on, or if things were going on, it was literally only a select, like, I'd say clique of the town. But it flourished. Oh my gosh, the event was huge. It was huge. It had like 4 lanes of vendors, of just tents, and I was just taken aback. It was incredible. So I was like, okay, who put this market on? Who put this event on? It's a fall festival. Can I get in? What's the booth fee? The booth fee is $15. That's insane. That would be an incredible thing to do. So I asked her, I was like, hey, can you get me in touch with the organizer? Like, I want to do this next year. I will be able to. My kid will be a few months old. My daughter will be running around having fun. It turns out it was actually her sister that was putting on the whole event. Making vendor friends is a great idea, because there was another time I was talking to a woman that was back to back with me for booths, and she told me that the contact info for the Danville Fair is just email them. If you email them, they'll send you an application if it's not already on their website, which I thought was really nice. I was able to follow their Facebook page and see that applications are already open, and they're like 86% full, and they have like 200 vendors every year. So I just sent mine out immediately. Facebook page, making vendor friends. I always do checks. I never do cash. I do checks just for the paper trail. I like to see it listed in my bank account. Also, it makes sure that it's going to the right people. And I always mail my applications unless it is a Google form. There are select places, and I think it's mostly schools, that do a Google form. But 9 times out of 10, the event that I've been to has emailed me an application to print out and then mail to them with the payment enclosed already. Or they give you a Venmo option, and as I said earlier, I don't mess with any Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, PayPal, nothing like that. I do cash in hand or check, and I would much rather do check than cash. Most event organizers will email you details or have emailed me details about the event, and then you basically just follow that. Sometimes you need to ask clarifying questions, and I think this is just across the board, you know, countries wise, states wise, that you're not always going to have a perfect event. You're not always going to have the best event organizer. So I've been to events that had little to no contact, or events that like they sent me 3 emails and all of them were detailing everything you needed to do, like what area you were going to unload, or what parking lot you were able to go into, what area your booth was in, what times are there, and that particular event had middle schoolers there to help you unload. And then they had them walking around the event, taking your lunch orders if you needed them, or like watching your booth while you went to the bathroom if you didn't have another person. So like you can have a phenomenal event organizer and community, or you can have like, you know, I'd say rarities, because most event organizers have the common sense of like, we treat the vendors with respect and kindness, and then they'll want to come back. So in the rare case, you will get no contact, you've paid your money, you don't even know if like you necessarily got in, you don't know where your booth is going to be, you don't know what time you're supposed to show up or anything like that. There's also events that the organizers are decent, and then you have no publicity. There's no sharing of flyers, there's nothing. They haven't done anything other than put it in their local town's newspaper. So in my last video, the first video that was on my page, I hope it didn't seem like I was shitting on the event too much, although that could have possibly been the case. Didn't mean to, but that one was my worst experience with an event organizer, just because there was no communication, and it left I'd say all of the vendors a little confused. I was under the impression that it's like a committee that does it, not just a single person. I didn't know. If I knew it was a single person, I think I would have gone in with a much different level of expectations. I was expecting more communication and it just wasn't there. But that's something that you've just got to roll with. I think with every area. I don't think Vermont is unique in that. I hope you got something out of this little video. If anything, it was just background noise for you while you crocheted or cooked dinner or did anything. Leave me a comment on any tips or tricks that you have for finding events. Thanks for sticking around. I will see you possibly in the next one, but either way, have a great day.